and know that God is here. Be still and know that God is here. Be still and know that God is here. Amen. Amen. Our Wednesday evening Bible study group just finished a very long journey through the Gospel of Matthew, which is the book that most of our Sunday Gospel readings will come from this year. One of the many and varied reasons that it took us so long is that as we read the passages together, each person would see something different in the passage, something that was meaningful to them. As we each shared what we found most meaningful, we were able to shed new light on the passage so that we were all able to see things that we hadn't seen before. Although it wasn't a traditional Bible study, I think we all enjoyed it and we grew from the experience. As I read through today's lessons and began to research what others have said about them, I couldn't help but think back to our little Bible study discussions. I felt the same excitement reading the commentaries and essays as I did listening to our Bible study group share their epiphanies or light bulb moments with each other. Although there are many different lessons to be learned from today's readings, what really stood out for me this week was light. Jesus tells his followers, "You are the light of the world." Now, I don't know about any of you, but I have not been feeling like I am the light of the world lately. The weather in Michigan in winter is dreary and gray, to say the least. The sun very rarely makes an appearance, which leaves many of us feeling as gray as the sky. Add to that the continuing political discord and the violence and tragedy being broadcast on the news each day, and it's enough to dim even the brightest of lights. Unfortunately, when we find ourselves in these types of dark situations, we begin to have a desire to shut out the world, pull the covers over our heads, and hibernate. While that might seem like a really good idea, and it's tempting to me, it's not a realistic solution to our problem for a variety of reasons. And beyond that, it's not what Jesus calls us to do. Jesus did not tell his followers, "You are the light in your house," or "You are the light under your covers." He told his followers, "You are the light of the world. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." In order to be the light of the world, we have to actually go out into the world. Our lesson from the prophet Isaiah illustrates this really well. Isaiah tells the people that observing the law alone will not restore their relationship with God. They must also demonstrate their love of God by loving their neighbors. As Isaiah writes, "Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly." Our psalmist echoes this thought. Those who fear God share their possessions with the needy, treat all people fairly, and serve God faithfully. God blesses them and their descendants abundantly. Again, it's going out into the world and loving God by loving our neighbors. Excuse me. This is nothing new for us. Our recurring theme for the past year has been the two great commandments, loving God and loving our neighbor. Sometimes, however, that's easier said than done. What happens seconds when it's winter in Michigan and the world is a really scary place and we're feeling like our lights are a little too dim to make any difference. Maybe we're just not able to tell how bright our light is when we're hiding it underneath the covers. Or maybe the brightness of our light is perceived not by us, but by those with whom we share it. If you doubt the brightness of your light, think about these questions. Who fed and clothed you when you were in need, maybe as a child? What was the name of your favorite teacher? Who is the first friend you would call in an emergency? Those people have lights that beam brightly for you, don't they? In fact, you can still feel their lights, even though you may not have actually seen those people in years. Now ask yourself these questions. Who in your lifetime have you fed and clothed? Who was the last person you called just to say hello? Who was the last person to see you smile? Even if you don't feel like your light is very bright, I guarantee your light is beaming brightly for each of those people. Your light may be exactly the light someone else has been desperately seeking. Your light may be the light of Christ that leads someone to restore their relationship with God. And they won't see that light unless you take it out into the world. I read a story this week about a man named Philip Bliss. He was a traveling musician over 100 years ago. While he was living in Chicago, he went to hear the evangelist Dwight Moody. Moody told a story about a ship that was trying to find Cleveland Harbor in the midst of a storm in the darkness of night. The captain could see the lighthouse. As he drew near, he shouted to the lighthouse keeper, "Is this Cleveland?" The lighthouse keeper shouted back, "Quite true, sir." The captain asked, "Where are the lower lights?" The lighthouse keeper said, "They have gone out. Can you make the harbor?" The captain replied, "We must, or we will perish." With that, he sailed his ship into the harbor, passed the lighthouse, but missed the channel and was dashed against the rocks. It was a terrible tragedy, and many people were killed. Moody brought that story home with these words, "Brothers and sisters, the Master will take care of the lighthouse. Let us keep the lower lights burning." In our travels to diocesan events, Cindy and I often drive past a church called the Church of the Lower Lights. And we comment every time about how strange that name is. Why would you be the Church of the Lower Lights? Why wouldn't you be the Church of the Higher Lights? But after hearing that story, the name makes so much more sense to me. The lower lights are the lights away from the lighthouse that light up the water line. They enable the ships to come into the harbor at night through the narrow channel of the harbor's mouth. Impressed by the story of the Cleveland Harbor disaster, Philip Bliss wrote the beautiful hymn, "Let the Lower Lights Keep Burning." And I listened to that song over and over again this week because it was so beautiful. I had hoped that we could all sing it today, but unfortunately, it's not in any of our hymnals. So, this is a little bit of it. Brightly beams our Father's mercy from his lighthouse evermore, but to us he gives the keeping of the light. Trim your feeble lamp, my brother. Some poor sailor, tempest-tossed, trying now to make the harbor, in the darkness may be lost. Let the lower lights be burning, sand agleam across the wave. Some poor struggling, fainting seamen you may rescue, you may save. As Mark Trotter writes, that comes close to what Jesus is talking about. Let your light shine. He's talking about the redemptive power of human deeds. He's talking about the redemptive power of love and compassion and kindness and concern for other people. You may think that you don't have very much to offer, that your light doesn't shine very brightly compared to others. But I tell you, in the darkness of somebody's life, the smallest light can save. Those who have been in darkness know this. You know the redemptive power of small deeds. Mired in the darkness of sorrow or depression, nobody seems to care. At such a time, you're very much aware of your isolation and your grief. And then the phone rings, or the mail comes, or there's a visit. It is such a simple thing to the person who gives it, but not to you. You will never forget it. It is light coming into your darkness. Those of us living in Michigan in winter aren't the only ones suffering from a lack of light. Our whole world has become a very dark place, and people everywhere are searching for light. It's not important how bright we think our light is. What is important